Oh, hold on a second. I don't know why.
Are you able to share?
Well, I am looking for my button here.
Well, it should be on the bottom if you
It is.
toggle down, and you
Well,
should see it
it,
share.
it, it was there. I'm serious. It was there. Hold on. Am I still on? There
Yep,
we go.
it's on.
Oh, well, what happened to it? There we go. Sure. Continue. Let's see here.
Not sure. There you go. We got it.
Right. Perfect. All right. All right. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. With the illustration?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So, anyways, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight. Again, I really enjoy working with all of the groups with FEG, and again, this is my passion. I've been in this business for over 40 years now. Always been in the financial services business, and to me, when IULs first started to come out back in the mid 90s. I thought it was one of the best products out there in the marketplace at that time, and to me, I believe it still is. So again, that's what I'll be talking with you tonight about. Just IULs. How to set them up. Why we what we call properly funded and so on. So before I get started going into an illustration that I prepared several. I want to talk a little bit about what IULs. What are the two major components of IULs? The first major component is the death benefit because it is universal life. But the second component is the cash value accumulation, and that's where the index comes into play. Index causes the cash accumulation, and then obviously the UL is the death benefit coverage, which is very important because that's what living benefits is all about. In case a person dies too soon or gets sick along the way, there's the living benefits there. But then the cash value accumulation does the third what if you live a long time? And that's why to us at FEG, we always talk about proper funding an IUL, why proper funding is important. And the nice thing about IULs is that they are very flexible. It is a what we call a flexible, and that's what the on the first cover of the illustration says. It's a flexible premium adjustable policy, which means that premiums are very flexible. The death benefit is also adjustable. And that's why I believe IULs are, to me, the best product out there in the marketplace, is because a person is able to change it to meet their economic situation. And we know that economic situations of families change year after year after year. And that's why IULs are so darn important. And again, when IULs were first designed back in the mid 90s, that's IULs were really designed for that component of cash value accumulation. So what I'm going to do, kind of get into some of the specifics of the IUL using this illustration, showing how it works, and basically how I talk to people when I'm training agents about IULs, what they should be looking for, and what they should be when they do an illustration. And by the way, illustrations are mandatory according to the regulations. You have to show an illustration when it comes to IULs because the regulations call for an illustration when you are illustrating something that not only has guarantees but also has non-guarantees, or what we call current rates. So that's why we have to use an illustration to show a person, and we would want to do that because that shows the power of IULs. So with that, I am going to go ahead and see about opening this presentation up here. Okay, here. All right, let's see here. Here we go. And I'm going to close out my screen here so I can see it. All right, so basically what we've done here, and I'm using the F&G Fidelity Guarantee Life Gold product. The reason why I like the Gold product is because it has more options from an index allocation strategy than the Freedom product at this time. And back in October of last year, Fidelity and Guarantee Life came out with a two new index strategies, which I believe are very, very powerful. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So basically, this page right here, which is the second and third page of the illustration, I think is probably one of the most important pages. And the reason why is because of right here where it talks about guideline premiums. When it comes to IULs, there's what we call guideline premiums. Guideline premiums is based upon Section 7702 of the Internal Revenue Code, and that's basically the code that allows for the tax advantages. The tax advantages of life insurance IULs is very, very important. You have the tax-free death benefit, you have the tax deferred accumulation, and most important of all, which we talk about, is the tax advantaged income for distribution. Very, very important. And in order to get those tax advantages, the person has to meet certain guideline premium limitations. Basically, all that means is that how much money can a person put into the policy in order to get those three tax advantages. So when you're running an illustration, you do have several different premium choices. You have what we call a minimum premium. You have a target premium. You have a guideline level premium. And then basically you have anything in between the minimum and the guideline level. But my when I do my training, I always tell agents that they should always use when they're talking about IULs, they should always use the target premium as the minimum benchmark premium, and then anything up to the guideline level premium. And the reason why we want to do that is because we want to minimize the expense charges and we want to maximize the benefits. And maximizing the benefits of the IUL is the cash accumulation. So when we're talking about IULs, and I think a lot of you may have heard this on the radio or maybe in a meeting, but they always say buy term and invest the difference. Well, a lot of people will buy term insurance, but they'll never invest the difference, or they start to invest the difference, but then they stop. IULs is basically buying term and investing the difference because you are buying you're buying death benefit coverage and the company is charging the cost of the insurance for that death benefit, and then anything that's left over is going into the cash value. So basically, an IUL is almost like buying term and investing the difference. So when a person says to you, "Well, I'd rather buy term and invest the difference," that's exactly what they're doing with IULs. But here are the guideline premium limitations. And by the way, what I did here, I did a half a million death benefit on the 35-year old, and I did standard non-tobacco. And there's a reason why I use standard is because Fidelity and Guarantee Life recommends that an application go in at standard and not preferred. The reason why is because if for some reason the person can't get preferred and they comes back standard, then that's what they call not issued as applied for, which means there's additional paperwork that has to be done. But if an application goes in as standard and the client does qualify for preferred, they will automatically give them the preferred, and there's nothing that needs to be done. So that's why on the illustration, when you are going in it, the default is standard, whether it's non-tobacco, tobacco, or what have you. But these guideline premium limitations are very, very important because right now, what we're paying here, this is the target premium, and it's $350 per month or $4,200 per year. And that's right here. But here's the key: the guideline level premium is over $23,000, which means that that person can contribute up to $23,000 per year if they wanted to. But then that's a big wide range of money that they could put more money into it. But the key with the target premium is that the insurance company determines based upon their age and the death benefit what they can pay out in terms of not only compensation but also have a product that provides a very good cash accumulation. So again, that's why I always say start off with target premium and going up to the guideline level premium. But that's again the flexibility that our clients have. And then there's another premium called a 7 pay. That's for an individual that wants to really pay up or not pay up, but put more money into it over a shorter period of time. And in this particular case, that's 30,000, that's over 30,000. So as you can see here, this product here, the gold product, these IUL products that we sell have so much flexibility for our clients that is really the to me it's the ideal product for an individual for them to not only provide a an excellent death benefit uh, for the living benefits in case they die too soon, get sick along the way, but also providing them with a very good cash accumulation for their future needs for retirement. So again, that's why I think it's very, very important that people understand, when I say proper funding in IUL, why proper funding in IUL is really critical for the performance of it, to minimize the expenses, to maximize the benefits. All right. So again, then we go into these other pages, and the other pages of the illustration is just terms that us as what I would call financial doctors, where we help people financially with their problems. This is something that we should know what these are. It talks about the cap rates. It talks about the cost of the insurance, the participation rates, and so on, and so forth. And by the way, there's quite a few webinars out there on the FEG back office under the war room that kind of gets into a lot of this terminology that I do when I do my training. Now going back that one page, I want to stress that yes, there is that minimum premium of $175 per month. We're paying 350. So basically, we're paying basically double than the minimum. The minimum is really only there in case the person has to go down to that minimum premium, but it's not. To me, it's not the ideal premium to start off with an IUL unless that person is going to increase their premiums immediately down the road after the policy is issued. Okay. So again, but the key thing here, we have a 35-year-old. Again, you'll notice that the no lapse period is 50 years, or I'm sorry, to age 50 or 15 years, which means that even if they pay the minimum premium, they basically have a guaranteed death benefit product for 15 years. But again, like I said, IULs were really designed more for cash accumulation than that pure death benefit. So again, just scrolling down, here's another thing I want to point out to you, and this is the interest crediting options. Again, we have total diversification when it comes to our IUL products with Fidelity and Guarantee Life. Back and this is even going back when I met Ron Petrinovich and Ron Blumenkemper back 30 years ago. There was really only one index crediting option available, and that was the S&P 500. Well, right now, there's total diversification where a person can put money into several different buckets. And to me, it's always best to diversify. What I say, do not put all of your eggs in one basket. Because if you're putting all of your eggs in one basket, you are relying upon that one basket to perform. And I will show you a chart a little bit later at the end of my presentation that will show that there's really no one index that's always going to be the best. Okay. Again, there's no index that's always going to be the best year after year after year. There's always going to be something that's going to be better than one, and the other one could be better than the other, and so on. So when you run an illustration with Fidelity and Guarantee Life right now, they have it defaulted where 25% goes into four different buckets. Okay. 25% is going into the Morgan Stanley, which is one of the new index strategies. Another strategy is the BlackRock strategy, the gold, which I believe is a very good strategy across the board. And then you have the S&P 500. Now, that is just a recommendation. You can always change those when you're running an illustration, just as long as the total percentage equals 100%. And the nice thing about index products is a person is able to change their index strategies at any time they want to. If they're paying a monthly premium, they could change it if they wanted to on every month if they wanted to. It's locked in for that 1 year, for that next year. I don't recommend that at all, changing it on a monthly basis. I like to look at on a yearly basis when you do your annual review with your client, going over the annual statement. That's when you would want to look at changing any sort of index allocation strategy. But again, that's the nice thing about it. It is flexible, not only from a premium standpoint, a death benefit standpoint, but also from an index strategy standpoint. So, like I said, I'll show you a chart at the end. Now, here's another chart that I really like that's in the illustration. And this chart is a historical performance of all of these index strategies. It goes back 20 years. And basically, all this is showing is that if the person just had their money in the index strategy by itself, here's how the index would have performed. Now, here's how the IUL would have performed with a particular strategy as well. But the one thing that you would really want to stress to the client is not how much they gain, it's what they don't lose. And this shows if there's a loss in the index, this shows the power of indexing that we have with the IUL, that shows that even though the index was a negative, our clients did not get any negative whatsoever. Our clients received, in this particular case, 0.25% with all of the strategies with Fidelity and Guarantee Life. So that's a strong story to really tell our clients. It's not what you gain, it's what you don't lose. Because if you look at the index strategies themselves, they will have years of negatives, but you'll never see a negative when it comes to the index strategies that we have with the IULs. Now, some clients may say, well, why did I not get all of the gains? Well, the reason why they didn't get all of the gains is because they never get any of the losses. That's why I always tell people, The reason why you don't get all of the upside is because you never get any of the downside, and that's that power of indexing. And again, it has all of these different strategies. It's got the Dow Jones, has the Barclays, the Morgan Stanley, the BlackRock, then also the S&P 500 as well as the gold. And then if you'll notice at the bottom, this again is the 20-year average of all of these different strategies. And you'll notice that with the exception of the Dow Jones, every single one of these strategies would have outperformed average wise the index by itself. And that's a great story to tell as well. Another great story to tell as well is what we illustrate. We will illustrate an interest rate that's going to more than likely be less than what their average is going to be. In other words, we like to underpromise and overdeliver, and these charts are very, very important for you to use. Then we get into the tabular detail. The tabular detail, it tells the story. It tells the story as to what happens. Okay. And basically, all this is showing is year by year by year what's happening with their policy, provided that they pay that planned premium year after year after year. And it shows three different rates. It will show a guaranteed rate, and the guaranteed assumption basically is the worst case scenario. Well, I appreciate that circling that. Awesome. So again, that's the worst case scenario, not only from an interest rate standpoint, but also from a cost of insurance and any other charges that the company will apply on the policy, which again, that will never happen. But insurance companies have to, by law, by regulations, they must show that. And then there's a second column, which is called the non-guaranteed assumptions, what we call an alternative rate. And the alternative rate is a rate in between the guarantee rate and the what we call the non-guaranteed current. And the current assumption is basically what the insurance company can illustrate from a maximum illustrative rate. Now, when you do a blended strategy like we did, we took 25% into four different strategies. What it will do is that it will take the illustrative rate of those strategies and average those out. So that's where we will come up with an illustrative rate of 6.85, which is totally different than what each of the strategies has because it will average it. Now, when I was talking to Dr. Tong today, I asked him, well, what do you use? Do you use option A or option B? He says option B. So we ran option B, and basically option B means that the death benefit is going to be equal to the death benefit at the issue of the policy, which is 500,000 plus the account value. So whatever the account value, that is going to be paid in addition to the initial death benefit, and that's where you'll see the net death benefit on the far right-hand side. So that is what the net death benefit is going to be year after year after year. And on an increasing death benefit, it increases year after year after year. So now you can go option A. Option A means that the initial death benefit of 500,000 will remain the same year after year after year up until a point in time where the death benefit has to increase because of the amount of cash value. And that's typically like maybe year 25. Year 25 is when that will happen. The nice thing about option B is that you will not get an objection from anybody saying to you, well, what happens to my cash value in case of my death? Well, the cash value is going to be paid in addition to the death benefit. So the total net death benefit is going to be higher than what they applied for. So again, that's a big objection that some people may have Well, what happens to my cash value in my policy upon my death? So again, and then what we do is that we'll run the illustration, and you'll notice that even on a worst case scenario, paying target premium, there's still a death benefit that goes to age 73. Worst case scenario. And even on the non-guaranteed, the middle, it will even go to age 87. So again, when you're running target premium, you will run a product that will performs very well. But remember, they still have the opportunity to put more money into it. All right. So then I'm going to scroll down to a little bit farther. And again, remember, all of these other pages is just showing, just kind of giving the client, and it has to be in the illustration, how do these index strategies work? When does the company allocate? And by the way, Fidelity Guarantee Life will allocate their index strategy calculation on the 15th of each month. Okay. So the 15th of each month is when they will do their index calculation, which to me is a great thing because again, the client knows when they will be allocated. Whereas if a client sends in a premium on the first of the month and may not get there until the fifth of the month, and something happened to the index strategy, the client knows that with Fidelity Guarantee Life, it will always be on the 15th of the month, which is and by the way, it's because they only do it the 15th of the month, and they do it only 12 times a year. Their cost of the options of these index strategies is a lot lower than if they did it every day, which means that's why they can have products that will have a higher cap rate and a higher participation rate than a lot of the other carriers out there. Okay, then this page right here, down at the bottom, it shows what the target premium is. It shows what the guideline single premiums, guideline level, and even the 7 pay and the minimum no lapse. So again, all this is showing you right here is that what a person can pay into the policy to get what we call favorable tax treatments. And by the way, we want those individuals to have favorable tax treatments. So if a person does have a single premium that they want to pay, my recommendation is to take that single premium. Instead of paying that single premium, pay that 7 pay premium up until the time that the single premium total is used, and that individual will get the favorable tax treatments of the death benefit tax free, the tax deferred accumulation interest, as well as the tax favored money coming out of the policy. All right, and then let me see here. And then here's another thing I like to show. At Freedom Equity Group, from day one, since I've known them 11 years now, they were always a firm believer of a full disclosure. I firmly believe that we should always disclose the charges of what they are paying for. And by the way, I don't consider these as charges or expenses. I consider these as cost of benefits because the benefits of the IUL is tremendous. Again, you have this death benefit that can be paid out immediately in case something happens to them. We have that death benefit that can be paid out as a living benefit, and we have some real life stories at FEG that talks about living benefits. But you'll notice on these charges and expenses, this is what I'd like to show people, that the charges and expenses will go down. They will go down, especially the expense charges. The expense charges, which means that a person that keeps their policy in force with Fidelity and Guarantee Life benefits from it. And I will always like to show that. Now, the cost of the insurance will go up every year. And the reason why is because the death benefit is going up every year. But again, the cost of the insurance far I mean, the death benefit far outweighs what the person is paying, and that's why I say they are buying term and investing the difference. Okay, let me see here, and then we have the last page of the illustration is the living benefit story. We got wealth transfer in case of death. We have the cash accumulation in case they live a long time. And then they have the living benefits in case they get sick along the way. And in this chart down here on the last page just gives them an example at a particular age what could be paid out. And I always like to tell agents, please don't say that, hey, if you have a critical illness, you will get up to the death benefit of the policy. That's not the case because under a critical illness, it all depends upon the severity of the critical illness. So be very, very careful when you're talking to a person in case they may want to file a claim for a critical illness, saying, "Oh, you can file a claim, and let's see what the company will come back with in terms of what they will pay out." And by the way, this shows four different categories: a minor, all the way up to critical or severe, and basically that determines how much the company would be paying up to at a particular age. So that's that first illustration. Now I'm gonna get out of here and go to another one. Are you able to see my new one? Share?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
we can see.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So now this one here is a little different. It's the same illustration that I ran, but what I did is I showed an income stream coming out. All right. Because if you really think about it, once a person hits a certain age, especially when they're maybe even close to retirement age, they really want to make sure that they can basically what I would call retire with dignity. And an IUL is a great strategy for them to have as what I call the base. You know, when you're what I call the base foundation. When you're building a house, you have to build a foundation first, a very strong foundation, so the house does not crumble. You would not start off with the roof of the house or the walls of the house without having a strong base foundation. And to me, a product like an IUL provides that strong base foundation because it has the guarantees that's built into it. It has the power of the indexing where a person does not lose anything in case the index goes down. So there's maybe a point in time where a person says, you know what, I want to accumulate money in my policy, but then what can I do with it? So what I did here, and by the way, it's the same illustration as I ran before, but all I did was take the numbers. I paid again. This is option B, and what I did is that I took the $4,200 and I only paid it to age 67. All right. I stopped paying premiums at age 67. And then the following year, I started taking money out of the policy. All right. And by the way, what I did is that again, we did option B all the way up until the time I stopped paying the premiums and I started taking money out because at that time the death benefit is really not the critical thing. It's the amount of money they can get out of the policy for retirement. That's the most important thing. So that's why I said right here, I switched from option B to option A at the time I stopped paying the premiums into the IUL and when I start taking the money out. Now you could probably even stop option B to A earlier than that, but this is the typical scenario that I talk to agents about. All right. So basically, all this is showing again, it's showing from here again first 30 years, the same amount of values that was shown under the other illustration, but then now the numbers change because I'm pulling money out. And basically, I took money out for 25 years, for 25 years, and basically they put in a total of 134,000, but over 25 years they got back basically almost three times of what they put in. And remember, this money is tax advantage, it's tax free. They don't have to worry about paying any tax on any sort of gain because the policy is still there. So again, all I did was change it to B to A, and again, all we're doing is taking the money out, not putting any more money into it, and pay, and then letting the policy continue to be in force. And again, there's even a death benefit at the time the last money is pulled out, and that starts to increase again. So again, this is one of the things I do talk to agents about: how to max fund an IUL, how to properly fund an IUL, and also how to get income out of it. And that's basically using the illustration to show what we call an income stream. All right. So that's that. And again, like I said, there's nothing different on the illustration other than showing money coming out on a tax advantage basis. All right, now I'm gonna get out of here and I'm gonna show one other thing right here. Are you able to see the power of interest crediting options?
Yes, sir.
All
Yes,
right,
we
very
do.
good. All right, so here we go. So again, this is a little presentation that I use a lot with agents, showing them the diversification, the power of what crediting index crediting options are available. And again, this slide shows the Barclays, the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, the gold, and even the fixed account. And then this one shows the Morgan Stanley with the BlackRock. Okay. Now, this is a chart that I want to show you. And the reason why I want to show you this is because, as I mentioned earlier, why do we diversify? The reason why we diversify is because we do not want to put all of the eggs in one basket, because not one strategy is always going to be the best year after year after year. And so this shows basically going back to 2014 all the way to 2023, which was the better strategy for that particular year, and which was the worst, and which ones are in between. So, for example, in 2014, the Barclays was the best strategy they have. The worst one was the gold. And the reason why is because typically when indexes like the S&P, the Barclays, and everything else is going up, the gold does not perform. But then when the index strategies don't perform, that's when gold performs. And you'll see that in year 2022. So again, the key thing about all of these strategies, the reason why Fidelity and Guarantee Life has these strategies is because we want people to diversify. And the reason why we want them to diversify is that because we want to reduce the years in which the client will get the minimum guarantee rate. And when you diversify and put eggs in different baskets, you will more than likely not, you can't guarantee it because you'll never, it could happen. But again, the chances of them getting the minimum interest on each one of the strategies in a particular year is basically very, very slim. So basically, this chart shows that in a particular year, which strategy would have been best, which strategy would have been worst. But again, sometimes the worst strategy becomes the best strategy, and vice versa. So again, as you'll notice here, how not the Barclays, but the Morgan Stanley and the BlackRock strategy, how powerful those strategies are. And that's why we have those two strategies on the gold product. And that's why I like the gold product. So I would always carry this with you and show the client that, hey, again, because let's face sometimes people want to know how these strategies performed and what is the best strategy. Again, so people always ask me that, the dentist, what is the best strategy? And I always tell them, ask me 25 years from now, and I'll tell you which one's the best. I don't know. Nobody knows. But again, remember, past performance does not guarantee future performance. But the key is that we have the tools available that will basically make our job easier to explain to a client how things work. So again, like I said, this is a great. So if I'll send a copy of this to Dr. Tong so he can distribute it out to all of you. But again, I like this chart, and I use this chart a lot when I'm doing training with agents, especially when agents want to know more about the index strategies. So let's see here. And one other thing I do want to show, and I know I'm probably running out of time, probably taking Michael Sinclair's time, but let me show you something here under the remember we did option B income. I just want to show you option A income. Okay. All right. This is option A income, and just kind of show what the difference is. Remember, we had option B, we had a $500,000 death benefit increased every year. This is showing option A, 500,000. You'll notice that the death benefit stays the same. It stays the same, doesn't
Surely
increase.
or truly?
But the key is that since we have a level death benefit, our expenses and charges are going to be lower, which means the cash value is going to be higher, which means what? There's going to be more income coming out. So again, the key thing is that this is the beauty of IULs. A person has the ability to choose which one that fits their needs. And when you do a needs analysis, this is the most important thing is finding out what their needs are, and then you can design a program to fit their particular needs, whether they need the increasing death benefit, want the increasing death benefit, or they just want a level death benefit with more income coming out. So that's the beauty of the IULs is the flexibility and the diversification that the client has. So with that, I am going to close out of here. I'll stop sharing. I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Dennis. Again, I know it's a Saturday and it's a lot to ask of you, but we have, I would say, over 200 folks in here. Some are tuning together. And so the information you gave tonight will be put into great use. So thank you so much, Dennis, for your time, and we'll see you around. You feel free to log off, but you also feel free to stay on too. It's up to you. Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank
All
you.
right. Okay. Next, Michael, are you in? I see your name. I see you logged in. Are you able to see here?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, here he is. Okay. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm good. I'm good. How you guys doing?
Good, good. Again, thank you so much for your time. And we really appreciate it as our speed is running really high, and we are working every day is working day for us. So thank you for the time that you spent here with us, and we are going to really pay close attention to what you say. I know that you and your business partner, Alisa, yes, doing weekly training on a Wednesday, and also have recorded in there too. But tonight is specifically request with some of the information that I've been asked from countless agents. So who is better than you? So thank you so much, and the floor is yours. Take it away.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Tong. And I do appreciate everybody taking the time out on Saturday. Again, thank you guys. And as always, you guys pack the house, no matter if it's a Zoom or if it's a live meeting. So it's always great to see. So real quick, let me go ahead and show my screen here. All right. All right. I'll go back. All the way back there. All right. So two products that we're going to talk about tonight that Dr. Tong wanted to talk about. Keeping it very simple. One's going to be driven off of pure accumulation. That's, I would say your younger clientele, or any individual that's not looking for maybe, that guaranteed income for life down the road, or within that 10-year period of time. If they're looking to just accumulate funds from now till the future, then this is going to be a product that you would want to look at. It's going to stay in, I would say, similar lines to what you're familiar with in terms of allocation strategies on the gold product on the IUL. You'll have the Barclays as well. You'll have S&P as well, but you're going to also have a few other selections that you can choose from. Again, we'll go through some allocation strategies, whether that's the accumulator or the accelerator plus 10. Again, that's going to be your product that's going to be driven for the accumulation plus that guaranteed income. And it's also going to have that impairment multiplier. So again, if your client can't perform to the 680Ls, it would have that income doubler attached to it. So real quick, we'll get into it. All right. So in terms of illustration and the input and that sort of thing, honestly, it's probably going to be one of your easiest things to complete. A little bit different, obviously, than your IUL side. I would almost look at this as pretty much kind of like a term illustration. It's very basic, not a lot of moving parts in it. Again, the nice thing about it is it's really, typically how much the client has. And this premium is typically going to be lump sum. So for those that are brand new, whether it's 401k, 403b, 457, an IRA, sometimes it's money in mutual funds, stocks, bonds, whatever the case may be, those lump sums of money can be utilized in a fixed index annuity. We can move those funds, we can roll them over, and again, put those funds into the fixed index annuity and protect those funds from, any potential downside of the market, but also give them the upside of our indexing strategies. So again, once you're able to figure out, you've done your needs analysis or your fact finder, and, or if you just ask the basic questions of, do you have, an old, qualified plan or an employer sponsored plan that you're no longer contributing to? A lot of times you're going to find that they do. Most people have, will change jobs, throughout their career history. Many people don't really go into one job or one field and that's their career for life. It's very rare to see that. So again, when we're talking about an annuity product, F&G is going to be a great fit because they're going to go as low as $10,000 for initial premium, all the way upwards of $3, $4, $5 million would be the maximum premium without unless you wanted to go through additional hoops. But again, as long as you have that lump sum, you're able to start the annuity on that initial premium basis. So again, 10,000 is going to be the minimum across the board for all of their products. So whether that's the accumulator plus or the accelerator plus, they're going to be identical in terms of the minimum premium that you're going to need to fund the product. So again, I'm just going to take hypothetically here, these just because I'm utilizing, let's say 100,000, I'm just going to keep it very simple. Doesn't mean you absolutely have to use 100,000 in this product for it to make sense for somebody that, let's say, is 40 years of age. And also another thing to note with the annuity is male or female doesn't play a part in the illustration, essentially, or how the illustration is going to perform or how the product's going to perform. So again, whether it's male or female makes no difference. So it's a little bit different than the life on the IUL side. Again, so if male or female, it's not going to have any difference in terms of the growth or in terms of the income down the road. So we're going to stay with the 100,000 here. And again, just to keep it very simple, if we're looking at annuity type, you're going to notice you'll have non-qualified. This is money that has already been taxed, so like money in your checking account, savings account, sometimes in stocks as well. So again, we could take non-qualified funds inside the annuity as well. Or you could go to a qualified plan, such as a 401k or an IRA of some type, even a Roth IRA. Those are going to be your qualified plans, or 403b, 457, SEP IRAs, etc. The list goes on. So that would be your qualified plans. And then your qualified TSA is a tax sheltered annuity. So again, it's still going to have that same type of qualified status, but just specific for being a tax sheltered annuity. Typically, you'll see 403bs in that category. So a lot of times you're going to be either, I would say 80 to 90% of the time, probably qualified status, typically moving money from an IRA or a 401k of some type from their previous employer. So again, if you do need that, you're going to need a birth date as well in order for you to proceed. But you can keep it non-qualified. It's not going to have any bearing on the illustration either. So just to make sure you're aware of it, again, you can still proceed and it's not going to have any effect down the road whatsoever. The only time that would come into play is for your RMDs, which is your required minimum distribution. Essentially, you'd have to wait till about 72 and a half in order for that to even kick in. And that's when the IRS pretty much says that you have to start taking that some type of retirement income from your retirement assets. Another nice thing with the product itself is it's going to be a flexible premium product, meaning you can add additional premiums in, for as long as you'd like, infrequently or as frequently as you'd like, as long as it's a minimum of $2,000 per contribution or per premium transaction. So again, if let's say in a year you wanted to add, another 5,000, you could add 5,000. If you wanted to add another 2,000, you could add another 2,000. There's really not going to be a max, but there would be a minimum, like I said, 2,000 for any ongoing premiums. And again, you don't have to have them every year. It could be as infrequently as you'd like as a client. Again, it just gives that flexibility for that client to add in additional funds, as time goes on. And then next to it, the 4 years. Again, this is if you were to add in additional premiums or you're going to schedule, some more premiums from down the road, you could essentially just have it set for, 5 years, 4 years, 60 years. If you don't have anything set in the scheduled premium, then this isn't going to have any effect on the illustration either. So that's only going to come into play is if and when you utilize the scheduled premium amount. So again, we have the 100,000 in the initial premium. Then we're going to come down here to our allocation selection. And this is going to open up all of our allocation choices. Again, giving you quite a bit of different choices. And again, this could be obviously overload, especially if you're new looking at this. Where do you start? Which ones are good? Which ones have performed better? And especially if your client's looking at it, again, it can kind of make their head spin at times. The nice thing is we all have diversity. When we're looking at a product like this, being able to have diversification within our indexing strategies gives us some capabilities of being able to move, after your annual point to point or your 2-year point to points are up, being able to move to different, indexes and kind of, and essentially, I would say almost, managing your allocations, because not one index is ever going to perform, the same all the time. It's not going to be the best index all the time. Like Dennis said, you could ask him in, 20, 25 years, which one's going to be the best, and he would tell you. Same thing is going to be for the annuity side, right? The only difference between the IUL and the annuity side is on the IUL, you're going to have 12 points of crediting for every month that you've made a contribution or a premium. That's going to start an annual point to point. On the annuity side, you're only going to have typically one crediting segment per year, typically, right? So if you were to allocate $100,000 into 100% into one index, let's say the Barclay Trailblazer Sectors 5, it's a 2-year point to point. So 100% of your allocation, if it were to go into this, you're only going to have one date every 2 years that crediting could be applied. So keep that in mind. It's going to work a little bit different. Again, it's not going to have that same type of crediting on a routine basis. It's either going to be an annual or biannual crediting segment. So again, I don't always recommend putting all your eggs into one basket. it's better to diversify, just like anything else. So again, when we're looking at it, I like to blend it out as much as possible, because again, we don't know which indexes are going to be performing, better or worse than, previous years. I like to look at them, weekly, to kind of see how each of them are doing. So again, my recommendations could change, next month based on what I've been following for the last, 4 weeks. So again, if you have questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm always happy to, provide you some allocation recommendations. And the same thing goes for your annual reviews. Again, those are going to be opportunities and times that you'll meet with your client to change your allocations. Feel free, again, if they need help or they would like a suggestion, I'm more than happy to, to recommend suggestions based on what I see the indexers are doing at this moment in time. So to keep it familiar with you, for you guys, Barclay Trailblazer Sectors 5, you guys are very familiar with this index. Obviously, it's on the IULs, on the gold and the freedom. So we're going to run 20% into that one. And again, I'm not going to use any indexes that have a charge. Again, I don't necessarily like paying for an additional participation a lot of times, because let's say if it's a down year or a down 2 years, then you're actually losing money off of that charge. So if I can maintain the policy is not losing any money, from a charge standpoint or a rider standpoint, then we're being more effective, for long term for our clients. So we're going to take 20% into the Barclays, and then we'll come down. We'll do another 20% into the Morgan Stanley 1-year point to point. We'll do another 20% in the Morgan Stanley 2-year point to point with spread and par. And then we'll also come down to the 1-year monthly point to point with a cap, and 1-year monthly point to point with a cap, or 1-year point to point with a cap. There we go. So again, just a pretty basic blend, just and I would say just more of an even blend straight out of the gate. Because again, trying to get a little bit of, all of the indexes that have performed very well in the past on the annuity side. And again, click OK. From this standpoint, if you wanted to show any withdrawals, you could do so right here. Cash flow, if you wanted to show that, we could insert. And then how would you like it paid? Annual, semi-annual, quarterly, or monthly? Really up to you. Typically, you don't necessarily need to show it. Again, more times than not, clients are looking for you to grow, that lump sum of money over the next, let's say, 5, 7, 10 years. Then they'll more likely want to move that money from this product to another product that has maybe guaranteed income. So again, setting yourself up for more than one sale with that client. Again, everything on the annuity side, you're going to do in pretty much steps. So if the client's younger, we want to grow this money as much as we possibly can over the next, let's say, 10, 15, 20 years, depending on how old the client is. And then again, as they're getting closer to that retirement age, then we want to move that money into an annuity that has guaranteed income. That way, when they're ready to retire, they're already in the product. They've had a little bit of time in that product, and now they can turn that guaranteed income on. So this is just step one, potentially in a multi-step process that you could be looking at for your client from a sales standpoint. If you have anything else to add in from this standpoint, you could. If you don't want to add anything in here, your illustration is done. So realistically, the only thing that we've done from this point is we've selected the product, whether it's qualified or non-qualified, your initial premium, and your allocations. That's really it. That's the basic of it, of the illustration. So we'll go ahead and run the illustration, and then we'll go through that, and I'll go through the columns on the guaranteed side, non-guaranteed side, and what you can expect to hear from your clients when you're sitting with them. Because again, a lot of them are going to have questions at times. And again, an annuity is not that difficult, and it's not that complex. Again, just think of it as kind of like a much better, savings account than what you could get at the bank per se, right? It's not really a savings account. It's still a retirement vehicle at the end of the day. But again, once you understand the basics of it, it's going to be the same for pretty much all annuities on a move forward basis. So we're still going to get that downside protection. Obviously, moving the money out of a market risk-based position, moving it into a fixed index annuity of some sort, you're eliminating all that market volatility for that client. So again, at the end of the day, it's all positives from this point forward. Now, in terms of obviously your growth, a variety of indexes, whether it's S&P, GS Global Factor Index, Barclays, Morgan Stanley, or you can even go the fixed route for that matter. At the end of the day, again, giving that client choices and options to choose from. So again, they're not just stuck with one type of index and that's it. They have the power of options at the end of the day. Now, when we look at the different types of indexes and what these par rates and cap rates and spread rates are. So a cap rate is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to be a limit, and that limit is either a per year or per 2 year limit or per month limit. So when we're talking about cap rates here, you'll notice S&P 500 is the only one that's going to have cap rates. So whether that's the 1 year performance trigger with the cap, the 1 year monthly average, the 1 year monthly point to point, or the 1 year point to point with cap as well. So again, these are all going to be typically annual based. So the first one, the 1 year performance trigger with the cap, the 1 year monthly average index. These two are going to be annual based. And then obviously the 1 year point to point is going to be annual based. The one that is not annual based, it's actually crediting that's going to be taken on a rolling 12 months is going to be the 1 year monthly point to point. So this cap is actually based on one per month over the next 12 months. So again, if you look at it from a standpoint of what's the maximum amount of interest that the 1 year monthly point to point could earn, take the 2.55 times 12, and you're looking at about 30.6%. So again, it looks deceiving on the actual illustration because you're seeing it at 2.55, but again, that's a per month basis. So again, from January to January 2026, per month, it could go up to 2.55 per month, and that would be the max per month that you could actually have an aggregate total for that month. And at the end of the 12 months, they're going to take the aggregate total over the last 12, add it up, and that will be your applied interest rate for that year. Now, getting into your par rates. Par rates is short for participation rates. So you're going to notice that you're going to see some high par rates, 245%, 280%, 305, 120, 105, 140, etc. So again, what this represents is it's simple. So if you're getting 100% par and the index returns, let's say 5%, then you're gonna have a 5% net rate of return. Now, if you're having a 200% par and that same index returns 5%, you're essentially going to double that rate of return because you're operating on a 200% participation. So you're going to have a 10% net rate of return, just to kind of make it easy for you on that aspect. So again, 100% is 1-to-1 rate of return. And then obviously anything above that, you'll just take that times whatever participation rate you have. Then getting into spread rates. Spread rates are going to be a little bit different than what some people might call charges. So a spread rate is essentially this. It is saying over the next 12 months or the next 24 months, whether it's an annual or a 2 year point to point, if you were to have a spread rate, if it's, let's say, 5%, that is going to be taken off of your gross rate of return over that 1 year or 2 year point to point before it will be applied to your account value. So let's say you had a 10% rate of return over a year, and let's say you had a 1% spread. So at the end of that crediting cycle, that 10% minus that 1% would give you a 9% net rate of return. And then that would be applied to your policy at that moment in time. As you'll notice here, none of the indexing strategies have a spread rate as time of issue. Now, all these rates can change. Cap rates, par rates, and spread rates can all change throughout the life of the contract. There are going to be minimum guarantees that you're going to have on these different indexing strategies as well. So again, whether that's a cap rate, par rate, or spread rate, you're going to have either the highest it could go in terms of spread rate or the lowest it could go in terms of par rate and cap rates. So, but right now you're looking at some decently high participation rates at the end of the day, to be completely honest. So again, looking at it from a standpoint, trying to make it very simple for everybody, because again, it can be a little bit overwhelming at first, especially if you haven't done annuities, much at all. You start seeing all these different, allocation strategies and numbers. It can get a little overwhelming, but realistically, it's really not that bad. And in the back office in our war room, we have different videos that you can watch as well if you need just kind of a refresher on really how to understand these type of documents or these type of pages, on the illustration. Try to keep it simple. So our selected allocations, like we said, is going to be right here, 20% into each of these indexing strategies. Now, you're also going to get additional features that are going to come at no additional cost to the client. You're going to get, and these are all going to be waiver of surrender charge. So if it's an impairment, nursing home, or they're terminally ill, the client would then get access if it's within the surrender period. So if it's within the 10-year period of time, since this is a 10-year product, then they would waive all surrender charges and they would have full access, 100% access to the account value immediately if they were to fall into one of those categories. If they don't, then there could be surrender charges if the client wanted to take out more than 10% penalty free, or they wanted to surrender the product outright or replace the contract within that surrender period of time. And we'll cover that once we get into the actual numeric part of the illustration right here. So day one, we notice we put in the 100,000. And again, this is going to show you the worst case scenario possible. Again, not earning really any interest at the end of the day. So assuming our indexes average a 0% or worse rate of return over the course of the next 10, 20, or 30 plus years, this is exactly what your policy would look like. So again, don't be afraid to show this page. A lot of times agents can get a little afraid to show it because, again, you're showing the account value. You're not showing any interest. And by the way, it's saying it's guaranteed, right? So again, these are things that the client's eyes are going to gravitate towards. It says guaranteed and it shows no interest. Now, that's not bad whatsoever. This is assuming, again, our indexes like the S&P 500, for example, have averaged a 0% or worse rate of return. If that were to be true, then any money in the market would be evaporated, right? If they had their money exposed to markets, more times than not, it would be evaporated. So again, the fact that they're still able to have the same amount of money they put in over that next 5 years, even though the market went backwards, that is still a significant win for that client. Now, when in terms of minimum guaranteed surrender value and surrender value, these columns are very different in terms of what the relationship is to the actual money itself. So first, I'm going to touch on the surrender value column. So again, we talk about annuities having surrender charges. This one in particular has a 10-year surrender charge. So it means over that next 10 years, if they were to take out more than 10% penalty free, so essentially, if you start out with 100,000, they could take out 10%, which would be $10,000, and there would not be any surrender penalty whatsoever. But if they took out more than the 10%, and that 10% is based on the account value at the time of withdrawal, then they could have a surrender charge attached. And that surrender charge would not be attached on the first 10%. It would just be attached on any amount over the 10%. So again, in the first year, you're going to notice it's a 9% surrender charge. And then it's going to slowly work its way backwards from 9%, and they'll go to about 8%, and then so forth and so on, all the way down to it working out to being 0 after the end of 10 years. Now, you're probably going to ask me, and you're probably going to have questions on this specifically. Well, if we're not earning any interest, and the surrender charge is obviously a 10-year surrender charge, and it works backwards over the next 10 years, technically at the end of 10 years, it would be 0%. Right? But let's say in year 7, it would still have a surrender charge. How is it that my account value and my surrender value are different? I'm showing $510 more than actually my account value. And this is the secondary safety net to, obviously the worst we could possibly do is 0%. We have a minimum guaranteed surrender value. And what this essentially is this is going to take roughly about 87.5% of your premium, your first year premiums, and it's going to apply a flat rate of return over the life of the contract. Typically, it's going to range from about 1% to 3%. So this is the guaranteed rate of return that will be applied to this specific value of your product alone. So that 2%, even though we're not earning any interest from indexing, after 7 years, no matter what, if we were not to earn anything, our client still makes 510. Everybody else that's been exposed to the market hasn't earned anything and has lost a lot of money at that point, but yet they still show 100,000. So their money never went anywhere. But because of that secondary safety net, they do have an additional 510. And then after 10 years, it would actually be 106,000. So again, that minimum guaranteed surrender value, you don't need to be kind of afraid of it. It's not the same thing as your surrender value. And the only time they become the same number is when the minimum guaranteed surrender value exceeds essentially whatever the surrender value is at that moment in time. So again, you're always going to get the highest of the columns when we're looking at account value or minimum guaranteed surrender value. Whichever one of these two are higher, that would be the one that you would essentially get. And you'll notice if the client was to pass away, even in the first 2, 3, 4 years, they're still going to get whatever is in your account value. They'll get the highest of the two. So it'll either be account value or minimum guaranteed surrender value. They get the highest of the two. So again, it's a win-win situation for your clients there. So our clients now know their money is protected. It's not going to go anywhere in worst case scenario. Now we don't anticipate, this happening. However, again, it's not a bad thing to show it, and insurance companies have to show guaranteed rates, as Dennis talked about a little bit ago. So again, nothing to be worried about on this aspect. Now, when we scroll down a little bit further, now we're going to start seeing based on current rates, and very similar to the IUL, this is going to be based off of a 20-year look back, right? So same type of look back period. Again, they're going to take the 10 most recent, the 10 highest, and the 10 worst years, essentially. So this is going to be based off the 10 most recent. And you're going to notice that we have interest crediting coming in at different amounts, 4.6 in 1 year, 5.16 in 1 year, 4.16. And then obviously on the 4th year, we have a pretty good year at 29.87. And there's a reason for that, because we have 2-year point-to-points. So those 2-year point-to-points can give you really good gains every 2 years. But the thing with it is you do have to wait that full 2 years. So if you're going to utilize a 2-year point-to-point, I always recommend adding in a 1-year point-to-point as well, just to kind of help offset that off year of crediting. So again, being able to have crediting every year is a benefit for our clients, keeps them at peace of mind, because they, again, see their money's earning interest, especially in terms when they know the markets have been doing well. So from a standpoint of this, and this is what I like to explain to a client is when we're talking about a fixed index annuity, we're talking about your retirement income. I really want you to understand that I'm not here to tell you that we're going to give you double-digit rates of return every year consistently. What I am going to tell you is this: you're never going to lose money due to market risk. And if we can average somewhere in the neighborhood of about 6 to 7, maybe 8% over the a 10-year, 20-year period of time, would you be happy? Because this is what it would look like if that is the case. We put in $100,000 at age 40, and if we were to let this sit till age 50, that $100,000 we had would now be up to about $225,000. So I know we're already over the 7.2%, interest rate per year for the average of this last 10 years. Is that a significant win for that client? Think about it. They never had to risk any of their money, any of their principal, any of their interest, but they were still able to average out over 7.2% a year. Is that a benefit? Absolutely. Remember, these are the retirement dollars. This is the money that they've saved, either, by getting up and going to work for the last 5, 10, 20, 30 plus years. Again, this is the money they typically cannot afford to lose a lot of times, right? They don't want to lose this money at the end of the day. Meanwhile, that same individual that could be in the market, they could average 7.2 as well. And it could be great at the end of the day for them. But the problem is they can't time the market. Nobody has the timing of the market down, because now if they take one loss, they're playing catch up. At least within the annuity, we're never taking any steps backwards. We're only taking steps forward. And I always like to use this analogy is if you go to a casino, you play blackjack, craps, whatever the game might be. Let's say it's blackjack. How would you like to be able to go in and sit down at a table and put $100 out, and the dealer hits blackjack right off the bat? Typically, you're going to lose that $100 unless you had blackjack as well. Here, it's a little bit different. That $100 stays on the table, even though technically it was a loss. The only time that anything happens is when you win or when you have an increase in interest, right? You get to take that money and put it in your pocket. That's what I call a win-win situation. So we're never taking the losses. We're only taking the ups at the end of the day. Now, if we were to let this money sit for another 10 years from age 50 to age 60, and then I'll use these numbers as a kind of a round number for when we do the Accelerator Plus 10 product, we're going to be looking at potentially about a $528,000 account value. Now, I will say this, after the 10 years, or maybe even before then, depending upon the client, I would probably recommend rolling this money out of this product and into a new product. Reason being is, just like anything else, products change over time, right? And there's going to be different enhancements, different indexes, and different benefits of new products as time goes on. And again, you're going to be, I would say, better off long term if you were going to stay in an accumulation-based product by rolling this money, because you're going to take advantage of better participation rates, better indexes, and the better products, right, overall. So don't look at this as we got to put it here and wait for the next 20 years and that's it. Again, we can move this money, like I said, in the next 10 years, in the next 5 years, as long as it's a benefit to the client, if it's within the surrender period. But again, we definitely don't want this money really sitting in the same product for much longer than, I would say, 10 to 15 years. And in an accumulation-based product, right? It's a little bit different when we're talking about an income product. So again, we're trying to maximize our clients' dollars at the end of the day, and taking advantage of every product that we can along the way is going to be a benefit for them, but also a benefit for you, right? Because every time you make a sale, you're being paid. Now, to really kind of bring this into perspective, because this is going to be a question that a lot of people have. Well, how do I get paid off of an annuity, right? Well, on the Accumulator Plus 10, it should be around a 6.8% multiplier. So again, you're going to take that 100,000 times 6.8 times whatever your level is. So if it's, let's say, if you're sitting at a 55% contract, at the end of the day, you'd be making roughly about $3,700, roughly, right? So to think about it, more times than not, these are clients that you've already met with a lot of times. Maybe you've already sold an IUL to. Maybe you're going back to do an annual review. Maybe you didn't ask them in the past, or maybe you're going to do the actual IUL sale and you haven't really asked them about any other assets they may have. It's a simple sale at the end of the day. It starts with just a basic question. Do you have any old qualified plans you're no longer contributing to? If they do, perfect. I might have a solution for you depending upon how much you have, and I would love to show you some different products and see what you would like, making sure that you never lose any more potential money, but making sure you can always gain. So again, it's a real quick sale in terms of how long it's going to take you to kind of talk to the client about it and explain it. So again, this is a great pair with the IUL, giving the clients a tax-free income, the living benefits, the Swiss Army knife of the IUL, plus the fixed index annuity side. It goes hand in hand together in terms of creating a strong retirement source of income down the road. So going back into the illustration, again, we're going to assume that we kept all of the funds here, and over the next 20 years, this money grew to $528,000. We could also assume that we used another product along the way too. Now, you are going to notice this minimum guaranteed surrender value does not change based on whether we're sitting in the current rate pages or the guaranteed pages. And again, this is all because it's taking 87.5% of your first year premiums and just applying that flat rate of return, whether it's 1%, 2%, or 3% for life of the contract. So again, you're going to see this column remain the same on all pages of the illustration. This column will differ because, again, this is going to take the higher of the two. So again, you're going to notice now we're going to see $225,477. We do have a small surrender charge on it, during that 10th year of about 1%. So you see on the surrender value side, it'd be $223,437. Now going into the 11th year, you'll notice no more surrender charges. It's dollar for dollar the same between those two. So just so you can see where those numbers are coming from, where the columns are coming from, where's the consistency at the end of the day. Now we'll keep scrolling on down. Obviously, the illustration is going to look great if we continue to do it, but keep in mind, all you're seeing is the same 10 years, just reset every 10 years and applied. So that's all what we're seeing in the illustration itself. So it's taking the most recent 10 years and it's just doing that same thing for the next 10 and the next 10 and the next 10, just to kind of keep you up to date on that. Now, coming down here to our most recent, our least favorable, and the most favorable out of the 20 years. 8.47%. average rate of return. Again, I stress this with individuals all the time is if you could average that, would you be happy? And if you could average that and you didn't have to risk any of your money, would you be satisfied and happy? And a lot of times they're going to tell you absolutely. Most people do not want to lose. Let's be honest, everybody wants those double-digit returns, though. We've been spoiled with them for quite some time. But the reality of it is it's not necessarily something that can happen all the time, always. So we have to understand that making sure we don't give it back is key for our clients. Now, on the least favorable side, so saying that the 10 worst years, from on a 10-year range was 6.18%. I would still take that. So in a really bad period for that 10-year period of time, it would still get up to about 6.18%. So instead of it being 225,000 after the end of 10 years, it'd be about 182,000. Still a win all day long. So that money grew by about 82,000 on the least favorable side. Now, in the most favorable side, we'd be looking at about 11.91. So our money grew about 208,000 over that 10-year period of time. So I think we're in a very good position in terms of the most recent. We're not too far on the high side. I would say we're actually a little bit closer to the low side, if anything. So again, I would say very much under promising in hopes of over delivering down the road. And then obviously coming down to the next set of pages, these are going to be your individual allocations based upon your splits. So again, this is going to show you the index change. So I'm going to talk about this because this is going to look a little bit different and your clients probably will question it at the end of the day. You're going to notice your index change 0%, 14%. But again, you have the 0%, 14%, but you're noticing there's no crediting happening here. That crediting is not taking place until obviously you've had those 2 years. Now you're going to see that crediting be applied. Same thing is going to happen here, 18.34% plus the 10.87. Again, you're going to see the crediting applied. So one thing that you're going to notice is obviously 2.73 is really hard to get to 8.7. Where's that number coming from? How's 8.7 coming into play, right? Remember the participation rates that we talked about up here. That's how these numbers are coming into play. That's why participation rates can be very beneficial for your client. But also at the same time, if they get too low, they might not be as beneficial. So that same 240, 280% par participation rate down here now makes a whole big difference for us, right? Because now you're seeing the index change, but you're seeing the interest credited and your account value growth rate is sitting at 8.7. So again, you can see where that's coming into play now. And the same thing goes for the least favorable and the most favorable positions. It's going to be the same. So again, it's going to take the 2-year change and it's going to apply that participation rate to it. And that will be your interest credited for your account value. Same thing is going to be for the Morgan Stanley index as well. The 1-year point to point. Obviously, this is, I would say, been a pretty decent performing index at the end of the day. 9.1 with a net of 9.82 on the most recent. And then the Morgan Stanley 2-year, 9.18 to 11.27 net. Still very good, very competitive. And I'll be honest with you, you could run the 2-year point to point, put 100% into it, and your illustration is going to look phenomenal. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's going to look great. However, it's not, like I said, you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and I don't think it's always going to be the best option. But I know some clients are very driven off of, double-digit return. They want to see the best illustration possible because maybe that's what another agent that you're competing with on the business is showing them. Obviously, those are different aspects that you may utilize, 2-year point to points together. So again, just keeping your clients in mind. So again, this is the basic of the illustration. There's not much else to it. And at the end of the day, we talk about obviously how the crediting works. The crediting is going to work identically to the IUL. You're going to have a allocation date. Typically, that allocation date is going to be the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, or the 22nd of the month. So let's say it's the 22nd of January. So if it's January 22nd, 2025, and you're on a 2-year point-to-point schedule, your interest crediting will be applied on January 22nd, 2026 for all your 1-year point-to-points. If you were on a 2-year point-to-point, then it would be January 22nd, 2027. That 2-year segment would then be applied. Just to kind of put it in a little bit more of a an easy to understand format. Now, we're going to assume that this client is now ready to move money from that product to a income-based product. And just for conversational purposes here, let me go all the way back and we'll go to 60. Go to accelerator. And again, I'm just showing 500,000. It doesn't have to be 500,000. I'm just kind of going from that illustration, kind of in a stair-step process with your client. Again, you could have 100,000. It could be 200,000. It could be whatever the case may be. As long as it makes sense for the client, then obviously we're doing the right thing at the end of the day. So we're going to take the 500,000. Now, one big difference here. This is really one of the two big differences. Your allocation options. Your allocations are going to be very different compared to the accumulator plus 10. You're going to see a new index. It's called the balance asset 10, 1 year point to point, and the balance asset 5, 1 year point to point and 2 year point to points. This index is actually from the power accumulator product. So that product is the fixed index annuity with a pure uncapped indexing allocation strategies. None of them have a cap. So that's where all these are coming from. I personally really like the balance asset 10 and the balance asset 5. They're two of my favorite indexes that have been performing very well. So again, I'm very partial. I like these. I use them in my own policies at the end of the day. So with that, we're going to do 20% into the balance asset 10, 1 year point to point. And then we'll do balance asset 10, 2 year point to point with spread and par. Obviously no charge. Balance asset 5, 1 year. Balance asset 5, 2 year. 20, 40, 80. And then I'll do a Barclay Trailblazer Sectors 5. Again, I'm just making just a quick allocation strategy. Again, I also will utilize the S&P monthly point to point on this one as well as the annual point to point. So again, those are the two additional ones that I would add in. Again, you could use the BlackRock Market Advantage and the GS Global Factor Index as well. Obviously, it's there to use. I'm just doing this from an ease of allocation and the strategies that I've used and that have performed very well for myself. Once you have all that set, go ahead and click OK. Slide over here to cash flow. And again, this is a product that has that guaranteed income. So this is where you're going to show that guaranteed income. So once you go to cash flow, go to print GMWB. And that's essentially giving you a guaranteed minimum withdrawal benefit. So once we click insert, our option is going to be GMWB and deferral period. How long do you want to wait before you start taking income? So obviously we're at 60. We'll say, just for conversational purpose, we'll go to 70. And then we're going to keep this paying on an annual basis, and it'll pay for the next 30 years to age 100. Now, from this standpoint, we don't need to add anything down here for withdrawals. This is already going to take care of our guaranteed minimum withdrawal benefit or our lifetime income. Once we have that set, we'll go ahead and click preview illustration. All right, so I like this page. This pretty much breaks down the illustration itself into one simple to read format for ourselves and for our clients. So we're going to have a $500,000 premium, age 60-year-old client. There is a rider charge for this product that's 95 basis points per year. So you are paying for an income rider, but you're also going to get that impairment multiplier or that income doubler along with it. Our guaranteed withdrawal percentage is going to be based at 5.5% based on us being age 70, and we're going to defer for 10 years. So based on a guaranteed rate over the next 10 years, our client's guaranteed to take out $45,406 starting after 10 years. And if they were to have an impairment, they cannot perform 2 of the 6 ADLs, then they could take that to $90,812 a year. And again, that's that income doubler. So again, those are the guaranteed rates. Now, based on current rates, we could be looking upwards of $115,278 or upwards of $230,000 for the impairment multiplier. Now, this product does have a premium bonus attached to it as well. So depending upon the state that you're in, you could be typically looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of about 8% typically. I know California is very similar to Texas, so it's typically 8%. Now, this bonus does have a vesting schedule. It's over a 10-year period of time. However, it's applied 100% to your account value day one. So that account value that's earning you an interest rate already has that attached to it, 100% of it. However, they do have a vesting schedule over the next 10 years. And the reason for that is if they were to give somebody an 8% or a 10% premium bonus and the client just said, in 2 years, I don't want my product anymore, I don't want my policy, then they would be able to walk away with that additional premium bonus, and the insurance company would then be losing money. So they do have a vesting bonus schedule over a 10-year period of time. However, it is available on your account value year one, day one. So we'll scroll down. So again, from your illustration or your allocation standpoint, again, the only difference here are we have the balance asset 5, 1 year point to point. We have the balance asset 5, 2 year point to point, balance asset 10, 1 year and 2 year point to points as well. Now you're going to see the spread rates coming into play. Again, you're not going to see these on every product. Again, it's really going to be product based. So again, now this is going to be looking at a 5.5% on an annual point to point, or it could be a 5% on a 2 year point to point. So again, this has a little bit more volatility than Barclay Trailblazer Sectors 5 or the Balanced Asset 5. 10% volatility versus a 5% volatility control. So again, you can see higher swings in the Balanced Asset 10 index versus like the Balanced Asset 5 or the Barclay Trailblazer Sectors 5. Now, we decided to go with the 1 year point to point with par, the 2 year point to point with spread and par, the 1 year point to point, the 1 year point to point with spread and par, the 2 year point to point with spread and par, and the Barclay Trailblazer Sectors 5. We also have that premium bonus of 8%. So we're going to have an 8% premium bonus applied to that $500,000 starting day one. So we'll scroll on down to see exactly what that'll look like being applied. So 8% being applied to the account to that 500,000 is going to give us an account value of 540,000 day one. We start earning an interest rate based off that. Now, you're going to notice that account value does start decreasing immediately, and that is due to that 95 basis point charge for the income rider. If we're not earning any interest, we are going to see that account value reduced just due to the charge itself. Now, you're going to have a column right next to that, the vested account value. That's essentially taking your account value minus any charge plus the addition of that 10% of that premium bonus every year. So that 10% premium bonus would be applied over that 10-year period of time. If we did not have a charge for the income rider, then this number would be the exact same as the account value. So it would be the higher value. So it wouldn't be the 471,000. It would actually be the 540,000 at the end of the 10 years. But because there is a charge, that's what the charge is doing to the actual vested account value, because we're not earning any interest. Now, that minimum guaranteed surrender value column is back. Again, the nice thing about it is no matter what, you're going to get the highest value for the client. So we'll see down here at age 67, the account value went down to 495,000. Your vested account value is at 483. However, your minimum guaranteed surrender value is at 502,000. So again, even with the charge, we're still able to offset the charge and increase that value even with the worst possible case scenario. Now, getting over here to the far right, this is the performance multiplier. Now, this is essentially what's going to make or break this product. This is a really deciding factor of how this product performs and how this product works. Everything to the left, and I want to make this really clear and make it simple. From this part to this part, this is actual cash money that you could withdraw essentially, right? At some point, depending upon the column, depending upon where you're at in the policy, etc. This is money that you have access to. Everything from this point, from this performance multiplier over to here, especially this income base, this column right here specifically. This income base is not an actual dollar amount that you can go in and take from. This is just a number for an income base that's being used to calculate your guaranteed withdrawal payment. So for example, if you have an income base of 574,000 times 4.5%, that would be a guaranteed withdrawal payment of $25,856. So that's just being used. This income base is just being used with the guaranteed withdrawal percentage to get your guaranteed income for life payment. That's the sole purpose for this column right here. So this performance multiplier is essentially taking 7.5%, and it's being applied to this income base year after year after year after year after year after year. So essentially over the next 10 years, it's going to max out at being a 75%, performance multiplier. Now, that's how this income base is being calculated. You take your account value plus the 7.5%, your account value plus, or times the 75% at the end of the day. So whatever 75% of $471,751 is, you're going to add that to itself. You'll come out with the $825,565. And if we were to start taking that income at age 70, 71, that $45,406 would start being paid out immediately. And then the impairment multiplier. The nice thing about this is it's not one that has a limitation on duration. So a lot of these products that offer an impairment multiplier will typically say 3 to 5 years. That's the most or the longest they'll allow it to be paid out. F&G states that they'll pay it out as long as you're like that and as long as you have an account value. So at any given time that you do not have an account value or you get better, then you're just going to revert back to the regular guaranteed income you had for life, even if you do not have any funds left in your account value, giving your client an increase or a raise when they needed it when they got sick, but also giving them the guaranteed income to fall back on after they got better or they didn't have an account value to guarantee that they still have that income for the rest of their life. So when we look at that over the next, worst case scenario, it would take you roughly about just over 11 years, getting into 12 years to get all your money back out that you started with if the actual indexes never performed. So honestly, I would still say it's a win-win situation for our clients. However, we anticipate them actually performing? Absolutely. So we'll take that same $500,000 and we're going to actually start applying some interest to it now. Now that $500,000 over the next 10 years could grow up to about maybe $1.1 million. Now, if you think about this in terms of an accumulation product, that's still fantastic growth. But this is an accumulation product that also offers guaranteed income. That's the additional benefit right there, is that guaranteed income, the real reason they got it. Now, we take that 1.1 million, we apply that performance multiplier to it. So essentially take 75% of 1.1, apply it to the 1.1 million, we'll get $2,095. Take that times 5.5%, and you're going to have that $115,000 a year income. If it were to run true based off this scenario, imagine your client taking $115,000 out starting at age 71. They put $500,000 in just a short time ago, 10 years prior. And over the next 10 years, they took out that same $115,000, giving them a total income over that 10-year period of time of about $1.1 million. And again, that was essentially $600,000 more than they ever started with. They already took out 100% of all of their initial premiums. Everything else after that is really house money or bonus money, as we could call it. But we're not done. So we've already got a $1.1 million benefit. If we take less the premiums, we'll be at $600,000. But we still have more money. We still have more benefits, because if we were to pass away, our beneficiaries would still get $889,803. Or if we needed money for an emergency, we still have $889,000 that we could potentially be utilizing if we so needed it. So again, is it going to run true to this scenario every time? Probably not. But the fact of the matter is if we can average somewhere in the neighborhood of this, and we're still able to take out, incomes like this and still maintain a solid account value over, traditionally speaking, their life expectancy, come down here to age 85, we've taken out roughly, let's say, we can call it, 1.6 million roughly. We still have another 600,000. That's a $2.3 million net benefit for that client that started with just $500,000 approximately 25 years ago. Would you consider that a win for your clients? Absolutely. We're not only making sure they're taken care of, but we're also leaving that legacy potentially for their beneficiaries if they were to pass away sooner. So the nice thing also is with this, if you have a spouse, that spouse could also continue that guaranteed income as well. So if one of the spouses died, because again, typically in like a 401k rollover or a qualified plan, you're typically going to have one of the spouses can only be the owner. So again, this doesn't leave the spouse out in the cold either. They could elect to take the death benefit, or they could elect to continue the policy as well and still maintain that guaranteed income stream for life for them now. So again, a win-win situation for our clients all the way around. So that's really the basics of it. Trying to keep it very, trying to keep it simple. Especially if you're new, you're seeing a lot. This page specifically has a lot of columns on it. It can be very confusing when you're looking at it. But when you think about it like this, everything from here is actual value inside your product, right? Like if we're looking at the accumulator, this is exactly the columns that we're looking at. The only difference to it is we're adding in these 4 or 5 columns here. This is solely for income purposes, right? This column, I call it monopoly money because it's not really money that you could actually spend. It's actually just being used to calculate your guaranteed withdrawal percentage or your withdrawal money. So at the end of the day, I think it's a win-win for our clients again. And obviously on this product, you're gonna, if you were to move another $500,000 of premium times, let's just say for conversation purpose, 6.8%, you're looking at, roughly $30,000+ of commissionable premium times your level. So at the end of the day, annuities can definitely help everybody get to 100,000, get to new rings if you've already had one. But just by adding it to your business, also is going to help your clients at the end of the day. So again, we're always happy to help. I'm always happy to help anybody out there, whether it's weekends, weeknights, weekdays, makes no difference to me. Reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. If you can't get a hold of your upline and your leaders and you have a question and you need some help immediately, don't ever hesitate to reach out and ask. I do appreciate the time that Dr. Tong and everybody out here is taking with us today or tonight. Again, I know a lot of people could be doing different things on Saturdays. So again, thank you guys for spending some time with us. And I'll turn the call back over to you, Dr. Tong.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. Folks, don't leave yet. Thank you, Michael, so much for taking the time to train us. And I've learned so much more valuable information that I will be using right after we talk tonight. So, Michael,
Awesome.
feel free to stay on, but I'm just gonna give some updates to the team. But if you have some place to go, you can go ahead and log off too. So thank you so
Awesome.
much. I'll see you in convention.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Yeah. All right, team. I don't know about you, but I just know that the information we got from both Michael tonight and Dennis Sudac, it goes directly to what we're doing right now. I'm gonna share with you right now. This is our incentive contest, and I can tell you, okay, if you haven't been monitoring our community team page, man, people are grabbing that money real fast. Okay, so it's the incentive is $25. Hey, I upped the game here. Okay, $25 per application. Got to show that you actually submitted, and the recruits is also $25. I get the notification, so no need for the recruit. But I'm telling you guys again. This is an incentive that goes from the 21st through the 26th, which is tomorrow. And so money is going by fast. If I were you, okay, post the policies that you have, okay? Do not wait until you submit it and then post. Post what you have. I'll give you a few days to submit them policies. But you want to, secure your position in the in the cash. And right now, as I mentioned to you guys, if you haven't really monitoring Team Doc, a lot of people are out in the field, team leaders, 100K earners. Okay, here's a message to you. Even though the 5 policies per person is not talked about at this rate because we put money in there. All the 100K earners, you should be going out there and write policies for yourself. You should be, okay? 5 times 25 is over $100. So return of premium, right? Okay. So I want you guys to take that and make it mandatory for yourself. You got tonight, tomorrow, we'll see after tomorrow how much cash we have left. Okay. But again, the time is ticking and you can't wait. Don't wait. If you wait, folks are out in the field across kitchen table, on a Zoom call, on a phone call. This you can see from tonight that we have great product from the annuity side, from the life side, and there's no shame whatsoever. It's a race for outlet, and I'm so happy to have all of you on the team. If you have any questions, reach out to me, and we'll get you taken care of. Okay. Thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. I hope you learned a lot, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.